So you've got a dog that's reactive. And by reactive, what you really mean is that your dog is displaying aggression, because reactive has to do with the physiological state that the dog is in, the emotional state that the dog is in, and aggression is what you're seeing. Because aggression doesn't necessarily mean biting. Aggression occurs on a spectrum. It's a spectrum that dogs have developed to help them prosper in groups, because it doesn't make any sense for a dog to have to go right to biting. Everyone's going to wind up injured. Now, you take your dog to training, good on you. You're stuck on the outside of that training class a lot. You have been for some time. You don't really feel like you're getting anywhere, but you're a dutiful owner. So you do that because you know that you're supposed to, and you're hoping that it all works out. And in this class, you're taught that if your dog behaves a certain way, then you should apply a leash correction to that dog. And you do that when you're out on the walk. In fact, pretty much any time your dog has another dog come within, say, 15 meters of it, it goes crazy. And you are correcting that. You correct the dog a lot, but it doesn't seem to have an effect. But at home, your dog's an absolute sweetheart, right? You don't really have to tell it what to do. It's a weapons grade expert at doing just enough to avoid getting in trouble and just enough to get the stuff that it wants. So it sort of develops that realistically, pretty much every time you come close enough to a dog, you wind up correcting your dog a lot of times, and it doesn't have the effect that you want it to have. It doesn't stop the behavior that you're attempting to stop with this logic, but your dog starts working out. Away from those scenarios, you're a sweetheart and you're on its side. And then when these other dogs get close, you start loading up and applying all these aversives to the dog, and he works it out. He's already feeling bad. He's already convinced something bad is going to happen when that dog comes close, and it does. It happens. You keep yanking on this dog, causing it discomfort. So your dog's right. We've just proved to that dog over hundreds of interactions, something bad does happen when that other dog is within a certain distance. Something clearly needs to change, doesn't it? Because you've accidentally proven to your dog the thing they were worried about happening does happen. And it comes from you, who they would like to think is on their side. So the change has to occur, and what's that change going to be? Well, I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you that if you're running into these problems outside of the training environment, your dog probably doesn't reliably drop, probably doesn't reliably recall, you probably have fairly high expectations. If you've progressed in your training towards the point where you're punishing your dog for what you perceive to be non-compliance, you're probably not paying very often, you're probably not paying very well. The training's probably not very well generalized, so it's great at home, but it's not great out in the world. When was the last time something really fucking awesome happened for your dog when another dog was around? I'll give you a minute to think about it. When you get stuck in this, it gets really hard to find an excuse to reinforce the shit out of your dog, because in your mind there is nothing worth reinforcing. And that may actually be the case. It's very often not, though. We definitely need to do something different, right? I mean, this shit has to get addressed. So if you've been stuck on the outskirts of your obedience class for a long time, perhaps the first point of call for you should be to approach the instructors and offer to pay for an individual lesson or 5 to see whether they can get a better insight into your dog's behavior, why it's happening. Because if you're in a class of 15 dogs and you're there for 60 minutes, that's roughly 4 minutes of attention per dog, assuming that everyone filters past the instructor. Then you've got the actual instruction time that's delivered to the class and whatever else. So it can be a very, very difficult scenario for an instructor to be effective. So you offer to pay for their time and you follow up on that. But remember that question. When was the last time something really dope happened for your dog around another dog? How regularly does that occur, and are you in control of being able to do that? Can you click a clicker or make a noise with your mouth and set your dog's brain on fire with this great event? That should definitely be a focus of anything that your trainer is working on, if you're having these problems, then you're going to need a foundation to be able to modify that behavior. And we modify that behavior by using operant conditioning and classical conditioning. Operant conditioning is learning. It's the stuff that you're doing at your dog training class. But if you give a couple of these lessons a try and your instructor, the instructor that you're paying to help you, really only has the same solutions that you were getting in class, then it's probably time for you to sort of start moving up in terms of the level of instruction, the level of coaching that you get. Perhaps it's worth talking to that person and asking them, is there someone else that they can recommend? Because you don't feel that you're getting these answers. And that is a conversation that you should be having with that trainer. Start looking for referrals to trainers and then start vetting those trainers. You're going to have to use your brain and you're going to have to research thoroughly, because unfortunately, when you start moving around in the dog world between trainers, you can get some vastly different takes on how to approach the problem. And if you go through 2 or 3 iterations of shitty training, iterations that are quite different, methodologies that are perhaps diametrically opposed, this can definitely fuck with your dog. Don't look for what's most convenient to you, as in what's closest to your house. Start looking at their experience, their qualifications, their bona fides, if you will. Start looking at the body of dogs that they work with. Start looking at the kind of work that they do themselves. Watch their social media like you're watching this. Really dig in and do your research. Then approach that person. Then ask to pay for their time and sit down with them and talk them through the problem from start to finish. That person will ask for a significant history of this behavior, of the dog's development, of your relationship with the dog, so on and so forth. Without that history, they have no context for what they're about to see when they look at your dog. And if they're not asking for a history, they're probably not going to do great work with you. Oh, and when you're shopping around for this trainer, when you get on the phone or you give them an email and you outline some of what you're dealing with, be very, very careful of anyone that tells you straight away, oh, we can definitely fix that. Because how the fuck would they know? They don't know you, they don't know your dog, and they don't know the ins and outs of that duck's ass. It could also be the case, and often is the case for these dogs with these really profound issues, that there's something else ticking under the hood. And if that is the case, maybe you need to involve a veterinarian. If you're working with a good trainer, they'll be able to help make these referrals for you to someone that can actually make a difference. And when you do this is again something that you should look around for. So even though you get this referral, go ahead and check this person out. Ideally, it's someone that the trainer that you're working with has an established working relationship with, because communication between the trainer and the veterinary practitioner that is going to also be getting involved, well, that's a team effort. And clear, open channels of communication and everyone knowing what page everyone else is on, it's very fucking important. So there you go. I haven't given you the whole answer in terms of rolling out a training plan to help you and your individual dog, but we have outlined a problem and I've given you a place to start looking for a solution. And that's it. Oh, and a note for folks in remote places. A lot of trainers and a lot of behaviourists will do the best that they can to work with you by distance. But we've all heard that saying, the tyranny of distance. That's definitely the case when you're working with fairly severe behavioural problems, and behavioural problems that have grown and developed over a long period of time often take a reasonable period of time to begin to resolve. So bear that in mind. That's it for me. I hope that this was really useful for at least one of you out there. And if you felt I did a good job of the video, please share it with a friend, or perhaps give us some love in the comments below. I'm out.